So you've probably seen a Bitcoin price chart, right? It's a roller coaster. That wild volatility is usually pointed to as its biggest weakness. But what if that's completely wrong? What if it's actually one of its most important features? Well, in this explainer, we're going to unpack that exact idea. And you know what? It all starts with a joke. Yep, that's right. A super relatable joke about grabbing your morning coffee is kind of the key to unlocking one of Bitcoin's most confusing parts. It just perfectly captures that anxiety so many of us feel when we look at the price. The setup is really simple. Someone walks into a coffee shop, they're ready to use this teeny tiny fraction of a Bitcoin to pay. Seems easy enough. But this is where our normal, everyday understanding of money starts to get a little weird. And there it is, the punchline. It's funny because it feels so true, doesn't it? The price actually moved in the few seconds it took to walk to the register. And it brilliantly highlights what seems like this massive flaw. I mean, how can you possibly use something as money if its value changes from second to second? But here's the real twist. The joke isn't just making fun of Bitcoin's volatility. It's actually a super clever jab at how we've all been conditioned to think about money in the first place. It's basically asking us to shift our entire perspective on what value even is. Okay, so this slide really breaks down two totally different ways of thinking. Over on the left, you've got fiat thinking. That's how most of us live. We see value as something that's fixed in dollars. So when something's volatile, it seems broken. But on the right, in the Bitcoin paradigm, value is way more fluid. That volatility, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's the sign of a brand new system being adopted by the world in real time. The confusion isn't coming from Bitcoin, it's coming from the outdated ruler we're trying to measure it with. So, if the problem is the unit of measurement we're using, what's the solution? How do we start to think about this differently? Well, we need a new building block, a unit that's native to this new system. So, it's time for us all to meet the Satoshi. Just look at that number, all those zeros. It looks like nothing, right? Like digital dust. But this tiny, tiny fraction is the absolute secret to making Bitcoin practical and, actually usable for everyday stuff. Here's the thing you have to remember. A Satoshi, or a sat, is the smallest possible piece of a Bitcoin. Think about it like this. A dollar is made of 100 cents. Well, one Bitcoin is made of 100 million Satoshis. And this isn't just some technical trivia. It's the very foundation that allows Bitcoin to scale for everything. From buying a car to, you guessed it, that cup of coffee. And all of this leads us to what the source material calls the Satoshi mindset. This is where we stop talking theory and make a practical mental shift. It's about learning to actually think in Bitcoin's native language. And here it is, the core piece of advice from this whole idea. Don't wait around for the price to make sense in dollars. Change the way you see the price first. By starting to think in sats, you're basically getting ahead of the curve. You're adapting your own mental software before mass adoption makes it the default for everyone. Okay, let's go back to our coffee example. Trying to price it with all those decimal places of a Bitcoin, it just feels weird and clunky. Our brains aren't really wired to process all those zeros, and when the dollar value of that tiny fraction is swinging around, the whole thing feels incredibly unstable. But just watch what happens when we flip the switch to the Satoshi mindset. That exact same coffee is now 10,000 sats. And suddenly, it's a simple whole number. It feels normal, like paying $5 or 500 yen. It's just psychologically way more comfortable, and the price just feels stable. And this right here really illustrates the long-term vision. The source material is asking us to imagine a future where one Bitcoin might be worth $1 million. I mean, in that world, pricing a coffee in whole Bitcoins would be completely absurd. But 10,000 sats for a coffee? Yeah, that sounds totally normal. It just clicks. So this brings us to our final and maybe our most important point. After looking at the joke, the mindset shift, the Satoshi, it all boils down to this really profound question about the very nature of money itself. So let's circle all the way back to the joke one last time. It really forces us to ask a much bigger question. What is truly stable? Is it a currency like the dollar, which everyone knows is designed to slowly lose its value over time? Or is it a system where the unit itself is totally fixed? One Bitcoin will always equal 100 million sats, period. Maybe the joke isn't really about Bitcoin's volatility at all. Maybe it's about the instability of the ruler we've been using this whole time. Thanks for joining this explainer.